Hi guys, in this video I want to talk about some basic strategies you should be thinking about if you are playing a bursty DPS based class, so something with like a Berserker Amulet or maybe a Kandi variation of that, something that's going to be doing a lot of damage. And we can really break this down into three different things that you want to constantly be thinking about, and that is how you handle engagement, positioning, and escape. So what I mean by engagement is if I'm running into a fight and there's some people here that are fighting, I want to think about whether or not it's a smart idea to run into that fight. A bunker might be able to run into a fight where you're outnumbered, but as a DPS class, if you're running into a fight where you're going to be outnumbered, or maybe there's 3 of them and 2 of you, and you'd make it even, but your team is getting a little low, you have to be very careful about engaging in those fights. If you're just going to run in and get yourself killed, you're not doing your team any good. The thing to think about is that you should avoid getting killed as much as you can, because the amount of time it takes for you to bleed out, be dead, respawn, come back, and run into another fight is very long. It can be like 45 seconds, which is a long time in a PvP match. So what you want to do is think about, is this a fight that I really want to get into or not? And if it's not, then go somewhere else and find another fight. So be careful about your engagement. Second thing is positioning. If there is a fight here on mid, I don't necessarily want to just run around and get right in the middle of it. Now, it depends on whether you're ranged or melee as to whether you can do that, but you have to be really smart about where you're going to be standing. So me, as like a ranged Mesmer, I might stand off here to the side. I might run up here, right, where I can be out of range of anybody who's melee. So if there's a melee character, they're going to have to make their way up and around these stairs. And I can always kite them with this. I can jump around a little bit. If you're lucky enough to be on a class that has blinks, like Mesmer or Thief, I can go here, and if somebody's, if I got a guy running into me, I can just blink up here. I failed on that blink, but you can actually blink right up on top of there. To get out of the way of any damage. And that's going to be really important. As a glassy character, you can be burst down very, very quickly. And then the last thing you want to think about is escape. So as a glassy character, if you're in trouble, you need a way to either get out of combat or to get, at least get that damage off of you a little bit. So as a Mesmer, I might have like my decoy where I can at least stealth and get away. Again, blink is always a good way. I'm really failing at these blinks today. But blink is another way that you can get yourself out of combat quickly. And it's going to vary depending on your class, but you have to know those ways to get out. It's also important to know when to get out, when to avoid combat, when to pull away, and that's something that you'll learn over time, but there are a few tips that I want to share with you. One of the things I see newer players doing very badly is, I'm here, I'm doing damage, let's say I down somebody, right? A lot of us instinctually get excited and we go, okay, I want to run in and I want to run up to this guy and stomp him. Right? But if I'm in a fight where there's multiple people, if I run into that body, the other team is just going to keep dumping damage in that area. They're gonna attack me, and I may not have the ability to safely stomp him and get myself killed in the process. So as somebody who's dealing damage, I really want to be careful about when I actually try to go for a stomp versus just dumping damage on that body. I might put down some AoE skills here, right, and start to do damage to anybody who gets near that player. Rather than go in for the stomp. So we call that cleaving. Sometimes it's better to just cleave the body instead of running in to try and get the stomp. Same thing goes for your teammates. It's good to try and help out your teammates if you have tankier players who are standing on the point and they're about to go down. It can help to get into position to res them, but you want to make sure not to res them if it's going to mean getting yourself killed. So in some cases, you might have to hang back and, again, try and put a lot of AoE on your teammate's body. So if one of their players goes in to try and get a stomp, you can cleave them down as well. And then the last thing you want to think about is targeting. So this is more of a combat-specific thing, but you want to be very careful about who you target and what you do to damage them. So the biggest thing is to try to pick out the other weak targets in the group. So anybody who's glassy, target them first, and don't immediately go after some of the tankier players. Now, meta's changed, so when you're watching this, it may not be the same thing. But as of the time I'm recording this, in the current meta, there's a lot of Celestial Amulet, Engineers, Elementalists, and Warriors that are pretty tanky and can take a lot of hits. So you may not want to target those and instead focus on like the Mesmers, the Thieves, the Necromancers, and a lot of times the Rangers as well can be pretty glassy, and they're your best target to go for. And the trick is also going to be to use the call target button. So if you haven't already, you want to make sure that you have inside of your controls, you have both a call target and take target buttons. I actually have these bound to keys that I can access pretty quickly where I am. You want to make sure to call out those targets that are either low on health or squishy, and if somebody else calls a target, take that target and try and damage them and do your burst as quickly as possible. So a couple basic tips for you if you're playing on a damage-focused class.